Hello, hello. Welcome back to Connections with Stacey Levine-Lavely. I am super excited. I know I always am, but this time it's even more excited because this gentleman who I have on today, his name is David Crowley. He's with Adaptive Exercise. He was actually Jagger's gym teacher during pandemic when we were just like living on remote and we really didn't have anything to do in our apartment or anything. So he was really a godsend. I mean, for 45 minutes, he really did those exercises. We were able to carry them through during the week. We did them a couple times a week to the best of our ability, which obviously wasn't very good. But, he really makes it engaging for the kids and things like that. So welcome to the show, David Crowley. I can't wait for you to tell us a little bit about adaptive exercise. So welcome.
Hi, Stacey. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So tell me a little bit about how adaptive exercise kind of came to be, what your background is, and, how you got here.
All right. So I've actually been working in the special education field for a long time, dating back to internships in high school. But my formal career started with, I studied speech language pathology over at UMass Amherst. And I worked as a SLPA, speech language pathologist assistant for about 9 years in a number of different ABA programs. I also worked as an ABA technician and served a couple different hats in home service roles as well. But across all these experiences, I really saw a big need for fitness for people with autism, Down syndrome, a number of other conditions. I just saw how much it could benefit them. And when I started looking at different avenues for personal training for this population, I didn't really see many options available. So it kind of led me to pursue a career in personal training, knowing that I wanted to work with people with special needs.
That's really awesome. And it's so true because so many times our kids, like they're not the kind of kids who may not want to go to the gym or, always be in a structured kind of like a Zumba class or, something like that. And to have the ability to have something that's a little bit different, but still, getting their bodies moving. And especially as they get older, that's like an even tougher piece. I mean, for the young ones, it's really good for them to get that energy out and things like that. But for when they hit that like 18, 19, 20 and above into that adult phase, just less and less opportunities to really do something physical really kind of diminish quite exponentially. And to have something like this is really, really amazing. So tell me a little bit about like when you, what does a day look like for you when you're, kind of doing your stuff? I know we've talked that I know you do some things in the studio, you do some things on site. So, kind of walk me through that a little bit and what kind of like equipment you have, what you bring to places, things like that.
Okay. Well, I'll start by talking about my home-based service because this is kind of the main type of personal training I'm offering. So this is going to clients' homes, and I'm bringing all the necessary equipment that you need for a training session, and then we're just doing the sessions right in the client's home. So the good benefit to this is I know a lot of kids with special needs have challenges going into certain environments like a gym. Gyms can be really loud, have lots of mirrors, fluorescent lighting, crowded at certain times, especially right now with the start of the new year. I know it's really crowded at a lot of gyms. So the good part about coming to clients' homes is that we're working in an environment that clients are already comfortable in. So we can kind of take that whole aspect out of the equation and really just focus on building up a positive relationship with exercise and kind of walking them through some different types of workouts and kind of figuring out what works best for them. But as regards to the virtual training, this kind of got started over the COVID pandemic. Obviously, a lot of us were locked in our homes and not all these other fitness avenues were available. So I didn't think it would work at first, but I just figured all the ways I could support clients when I was doing my in-home training, and I tried to carry those over into the virtual training. So we go at a slower pace. We kind of modify the exercise routines a little bit based on the client's fitness level and experience. But we kind of just go through sessions right here in the studio. I'll do the exercises here, they'll follow along, and we get a pretty good workout in.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. So tell me, how is your exercise program different than, say, if they were going to go to work with a personal trainer like at the YMCA, or if they were going to take a class at, again, the YMCA, or like, one of the gyms or something like that?
All right. So what it really comes down to is what I like to say is I'm all about providing the most appropriate supports to help my clients be successful. So whether that be physical intervention, me physically going hands-on and helping them through certain exercises, visual supports. I have a number of different things here, hand markers and foot markers to indicate how to position the body, how to move and go through different exercise sequences. And then there's another form of support I use called kinesthetic cueing, which is using objects in the environment as fixed points to move to. So let's say we're going to teach a squat pattern. We might put a exercise step riser like this right here. We can make the step obviously a little bit higher, and we'll use that as a fixed point to move our body to. So it really sets those black and white concrete expectations. So if we're doing an overhead press, we're going to move our hand till it touches the ceiling or touches a pad marker. Just really makes it, provides the clients with the kinesthetic feedback and really sets black and white expectations of what we're supposed to be doing. Another way I support my clients throughout their exercises is what I call modified language. With my background in speech language pathology, I know that one really overlooked aspect of problem with kids with special needs have is receptive language. And I think most people will think of expressive language disorders where a client can't necessarily communicate what they need to you. And that's definitely a case sometimes. But with receptive language disorders, it's more challenges understanding spoken language. So if I'm giving complex verbal instructions to how to do an exercise, that's not going to be a really effective strategy with this population in some cases. So what I like to do is make really simple verbal commands. So bend knees, touch floor, arms overhead. Everything's in phrases of 3 to 5 words. So it's really just getting the most essential message out there to the client. So we're doing all these different types of supports. We're doing the physical, the kinesthetic cueing, the modified language, the visual supports. And then this one's not as universal, but with some clients, they require things like token boards. They require visual schedules, video modeling. So those kind of things I can also incorporate into training as well.
I was actually going to ask you about that where you're working in some cases either one-on-one or in smaller groups, if you were able to, kind of bring that, like you were saying, like the token economy in, or, other things like that. Now, as far as your training, do you do when you're working with a child per se or an adult that has like sensory processing disorders, whether they like it really, really like deep pressure and things like that versus like aversive to touch and things like that, how do you kind of create, I guess, a routine around that? And is it hard when you have different people like with different sensory issues, like within a group, like even if it's 3 or 4 kids, like how does that kind of work for you? Like, how do you kind of like approach that and, make that happen for all of them?
Yeah, so I'd like to start by saying all our programs are really individualized. So it's going to vary so much from one client to another. I have some clients that are doing more traditional style workouts, while others, it really looks like a more adaptive fitness session. So what I try and do early on is, before I even start working with a client, is I have a pretty lengthy questionnaire on my website that I ask parents or loved ones, whoever is signing the client up for the services, to provide as much information as possible for me. So I ask things like, do they have any issues with physical prompting? Do they have any sensory issues? Do they have difficulty transitioning? So going into the first session, I already have that basic premise of what this individual has challenges with. Mm-hmm. So then based off that, I know if a kid doesn't like physical prompting, I know that I'm going to probably be using some other strategies, like I just talked about, like the kinesthetic cueing, the visuals, the physical modeling, all those kind of things to help them through their fitness program. Some clients don't have problems with that, and then I know I can go more hands-on approach, but it really comes down to the individual. I know sometimes I have to provide more breaks in there if there's sensory overload. Sometimes we take breaks to do sensory input tasks, different things like that.
Now, do you tend to work mostly with the population that is, considered autism, or is it more special needs overall?
It's kind of a mixed bag. I'd say I primarily work with clients with autism, but I have some clients that have autism diagnosis as well as a number of other diagnoses. So I've also worked with clients with CP, Down syndrome, some more rare syndromes, but I'd say primarily I mostly market myself to the autism population.
Okay, and when you're thinking up your routines, and I think that this is something that's really important for a lot of people to know and understand is, there are people, our loved ones who some of them are perfectly fine jumping around and doing all kinds of crazy stuff and moving their arms and things like that. And other members of our community that are, possibly wheelchair bound or, need to be seated and things like that because of like balance issues or things like that. So when you're kind of looking at that, when you have that, kind of mix in a group, how do you determine is it difficult for you to be able to cue the ones who are more able-bodied and can kind of, follow along more so than the ones who are going to possibly need either more help or might not be able to move as quickly? Like, how do you kind of balance that? Because that must be kind of tough, I would think.
It's definitely challenging. I'd like to go back and say that it's really individualized. So if I look across my clientele right now, I have some clients that are, like I said, doing more traditional exercises. Mm-hmm. I have some that have a lot more physical disabilities. And for those clients, I'm going to take a different approach. Obviously, I'm not going to be working on lower body exercises for somebody that's wheelchair bound. We're going to be working, it kind of goes back to the client intake interview like I talked about before. So mm-hmm. I want to ask parents, what are they looking for in the service? I have some parents that are really concerned with balance, some that are concerned with posture, weight gain, or weight loss. It's a really mixed bag. So I try and create a program in really specific goals based off what they're looking for. So in some clients, we're really working on trying to improve our balance. And I have things like balance boards. I have these really cool new toys that I got. They're called, it's for reaction time training. They're these pods with lights on them, and they light up. So the clients will move over, push that light, and then it goes to another pod. So that's a good way to get the cardio going. So they're kind of, it's like exercise whack-a-mole, essentially. They're going around and pushing those lights. That's been a really big hit since I purchased those. But it's so individualized. We can be working on strengthening, we can be working on cardio, endurance, so many different things. And I really try my best to use the most appropriate supports to help them be successful in whatever goals they have.
So when you're doing your sessions, it's a little bit more streamlined, is what it sounds like, right?
Yeah, so I do offer group classes as well. Obviously, those have kind of been fallen by the wayside with COVID going on. I kind of put a halt to trying to organize any groups right now just due to lack of attendance. But when we're doing groups, I kind of say the philosophy behind those are I use them to introduce clients to exercise and exercise behavior. So we're not going to be going for high performance fitness usually because it's going to be a mixed bag of clientele in there. We're going to have some clients that are ahead physically, some clients that are ahead cognitively. I have to make a program that I can make sure I can adapt to every person's level. So I want to be able, if we're going to be working on primarily functional movement, so things that are going to help out clients in their activities of daily living. So like our bend and lift patterns, our single leg movements, and whatever exercise I'm choosing for that group, I want to make sure I can support individuals no matter how much support they need to be able to be successful in that class.
Now, as you're going through the process of this, I know, you had said like you do some work with homeschools, you do some work with, just individual clients and things like that as well. So as you're like kind of determining all that, like how do families actually get involved? Like where, let's say, for example, they are doing homeschool and they really want to bring in a physical aspect, like something like your situation where, the kids are getting or the adults are getting more movement and getting more, in their day and things like that. How do they go about the process of engaging, your services?
So everything is actually right on my company website, adaptiveexercisenow.com. If you go over there should be a button to schedule an intake, and that will bring you over to a page where it's going to have all those questions I was talking about. It's going to ask for the client name, some background information regarding weight, age, those kind of things. And then it's going to have those more in-depth questions. Do they have issues transitioning? Do they have an augmentative communication device? Is there troubles with maladaptive behavior? Those kind of things. So I can really best prepare for whatever client comes my way.
It's one of those things that like parents, especially if they're still homeschooling at this stage of the game, or there are places that are still remote, or some parents just don't feel comfortable, or there may be somebody ill in their, family that they can't send the kids to school. It's really important for something like this to exist where they can do that. Sorry, I'm moving the shot on everybody. Because, like I said, it's just really important for the kids to still stay active. Now, in your classes, especially the ones that they're doing virtually, is that something that a parent would have to be in the room for, or is it something that they can kind of, leave their student and you're able to engage them? Or what would that look like when you're coming into somebody's house?
So again, it's kind of a mixed answer here. So I do have some clients that I'm working with virtually right now that they log on the computer themselves. They know exactly what is expected, and I just jump right into the exercise programming, and they're great at following along. And then I also have a couple clients that do need that extra support. So I think what it really comes down to is, again, starting with that intake process. Do they follow visual instruction? Can they follow verbal instruction? Usually parents will have a pretty good idea of if their child will be successful in that kind of environment. But I'm happy to work in both scenarios. I have some clients that they have either a home worker with them or a parent, and they're kind of help coach them through the routine. And then I have some that are just doing it all on their own. But I definitely modify the curriculum and programming to meet the needs of each of those kind of times.
Yeah, and it's so awesome because the kids really do get so much out of it. Jagger, who everybody in the audience knows by now because we talk about him all the time, he did this, like I was saying, during COVID, and he had never, he did like Special Olympics gymnastics. He's done basketball and things like that. But what I found really interesting was with you, he was one of those kids. It's like, okay, everyone touch your toes. And he would like put his arm out and not really do anything. He wasn't even coming close. He'd literally just sit up and his arm would be like this. And just no engagement, no bringing him into the fold. And, of course, there's a lot of other kids. So there's a lot of other stuff going around. And, the parents kind of sit off to the side because the coaches want the kids to kind of take ownership, be accountable and all that kind of stuff. And I used to just laugh going, oh, great. It's a warm up time. He'll just sit there and look around at everybody and whatever. And what I noticed with you is he truly engaged. Like he was literally getting up. We had like a chair at one point. He actually went and got the chair. Like when I said, okay, it's time for we're going to do adaptive exercise with David. And he was just like, yay. And he was so excited. And he like grabbed the chair and brought it into the room where, he was setting up and everything. And it was just really cool to see. And I think it's important for parents to know that like it's such a small a small group or it may just be one-to-one, you're really able to engage that child. You're really able to bring that kind of into their world. And I'm going to put you on the spot and embarrass you because I'm going to make you go over a few things with us because I want everyone to see like some of the things you do, because I was just so impressed. And, you know, he worked with you for like 10 or 11 weeks. You also had come to a Special Olympics gymnastics team, and you had done some work with them for a few weeks. And like, I was just always so impressed with how engaged he was with you, because nobody else, like as far as physical kind of stuff like that, had ever really been able to engage him to that degree. And I just was like, wow, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe it. And he got so excited. Like, I wrote down a few of the things that you guys did. And like I said, we were practicing it during the week, and it's just amazing. So can you do a couple moves for us today?
Sure.
Yay!
So I want to start by talking about, well, first of all, Jacker did amazing in our exercise group, but I do want to say one of the key strategy I use, especially, I use this in all my training, but especially I think it's really important in the virtual training, is I like to start with an imitation task. So something to make sure I know that my clients are paying attention and following along to my instruction. So I'll start out an exercise session by saying, all right, guys, we're gonna get ready for our workout. If you guys are ready, do this. So I start with something simple like clapping my hands. If I see the client clapping their hands, I know they're paying attention. We'll go through a few more. If you guys are still ready, do this. And then we can go on. And the longer I see that they're attending and following along to those verbal imitation tasks, I know that they're actually paying attention and engaging in the program. So we can go through a few different simple exercises if you'd like.
Awesome. That would be great.
So I'm just going to use what I have, all the equipment I have right next to me right here. So one of the things we like to use a lot is an exercise step, but I do want to say that it's not required that families have any exercise equipment at all. I mean, the program that we did online, we just used a sitting chair, like a folding chair, or something like that. But we can do different exercises using the foot markers right here. So usually I put 2 different colored markers. We'll go through our imitation task, and we might do something simple like alternating foot to step taps. I'm usually going to pair that with my simple verbal man. So foot to step, down, other leg, foot to step, and down. Foot to step, down, other leg, foot to step, and down. You're going to hear a lot of my voice because I'm just basically saying out every single action that we're doing. So that's a simple single leg exercise. We can do a few simple body weight ones next. We want our feet under our shoulders. Nice job putting those feet on your shoulders, hands together. So again, I'm using very simple phrases for all these mans. We're going to turn side to side for some standing rotations. We'll do a few reps of these. Nice job. If we want to try to get to a little bit higher fitness level here, we can go into some full body movements here. So this is the one I really like to use in a lot of my group classes. We want our feet nice and wide here. We're going to bend knees, touch floor, stand, reach the sky. Bend knees, touch floor, stand, reach the sky. So you can see with all these different exercises, I'm using really simple verbal language. I'm going at a slow pace so the client can see and follow along. And we're working on functional skills. So things like bending, single leg movement, all these things can really be transitioned into our activities of daily living. Like we need to bend down to tie our shoes. We need to reach over our heads to put things in a cabinet. It's just so many functional applications for all these different kind of exercises that I incorporate into the program.
That's awesome. Yeah, because it really does. I mean, you know, it seems so simple. And I go back to like Karate Kid, you know, wax the floor and all that kind of stuff. But it really does. It really lends itself to generalization as they're going through their day and things like that by being able to, you know, perform those kind of movements and things like that. Now, a question for you, I know that some of my parents will definitely ask is, are you, the way that you're structured and things like that, are you a private pay kind of situation, or is it something that would be covered potentially by, insurance, or how does that all work for them?
This is definitely the question I receive most out of any other. So unfortunately, insurance does not recognize this service, so they cannot use insurance funds to pay for our services. Most of my clients are out of pocket, but I also have a pretty large percentage of my clients that utilize DDS funding to help pay for their services. So I think it's, I can't remember the name of the exact funding it's called. I think it's their flexible spending from DDS. A lot of the families will use that to either reimburse a portion of the services or cover their services.
Nice. That's awesome. And that's an awesome tip that, if you do have that kind of funding available, because this is such an important thing. I mean, it's great to go to the camps and, have something to do on vacation week and things like that. But I think the important thing with any kind of exercise program, and especially something that's as adaptive as yours and as individualized in a lot of ways as yours is, it's something that can be taken and also carried forward throughout life. And it builds that flexibility, it builds that strength, and it builds them into, especially if they start when they're younger, it builds that bridge into adulthood for them to have those healthy living skills and be able to do things like this on their own, and, or continue on with you, depending on what their situation is. But it really breeds a really positive body image, a positive health image. It really allows them, I mean, afterwards, the endorphins are kicking and, things are happy and things are good. And, it's a really important thing for a lot of these kids, and especially kids, if they have mental health issues or something like that, on top of it, are dealing with depression and things like that, just getting out of the chair is going to help them so much move to that next level and work through some of those issues and concerns that they have. And like you were saying, a lot of the people who are probably taking your courses and, just on the spectrum or in special needs, have multiple diagnoses. And some of them are very, very bright. And, there's, not as much intellectual, issues or anything like that. And, it's just really important, regardless of where they are intellectually, everybody needs to move their body. Everybody needs to get out and get that exercise and do things. And you doing this is just absolutely amazing, because you've taken the time to really understand our kids, really understand our community and what the needs are, and, really come up with a system where you're able to engage and cue them and get them in a more active role in their own lives. And I think that's the big takeaway, is just you're doing amazing things with these kids and really getting them where, you're really creating a special aura around them where they're able to just, be more vibrant, and they glow more and they're happier, and, they're just more comfortable in their body. And this is such a huge piece. So thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know our time sadly is coming to an end. So I just want to thank you so much, David. Are there any last thoughts that you'd like to share with everybody and how they can get in touch with you? Because I want to make sure people know how to get in touch. We're also going to have it, like I said, under here, there's going to be links to get in touch with him. But please, any last thoughts you have, any tips or tricks that, might help the parents out there, or the kids or the adults?
Well, first of all, thank you. And I wanted to say, you did touch upon this. I think that a huge component is that so many families express the physical needs that their kids have, or the adults that they're looking for services for. But I think the whole mental aspect is so overlooked. There's a lot of research that shows that it can engaging in regular physical activity can help with better communication skills, emotional regulation, attention. So, I mean, it can carry over to help in school, it can help in jobs, it can help in so many different areas that are outside the realm of fitness. But I would really say, for tips for families, I think that the best way to do is to start being active. It doesn't have to be going and enrolling in an exercise program or anything like that, just to go for walks periodically. I just know that there's so many different families out there that are looking for that help, and that they don't understand that there's so many things that they can do outside of structured exercise. Walking is a great one. You can do a couple different, I know they have a lot of sports recreation programs available, but basically just getting active is a really good way to help benefit your child in so many different areas outside of fitness.
Yeah, for sure. And, again, like I said, I mean, these kids, it's just, and I call everybody kids. I call my mom kid, for God's sake, right? But, everybody just needs to get out there, do what they can, do whatever they're able to do. And this is just, again, just such a great thing. And I just want to thank you so much for the bottom of my heart for coming on today, sharing this with our community. And as always, everyone, keep creating unity in the community. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you back here on Connections next time. Bye.